now on one of today's top stories, the fallout from that second Signal chat in which Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is said to have sent the details of a Yemen strike to family members, and also, of course, more broad chaos at the Pentagon. Joining us now to discuss, former Trump National Security Advisor and the former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton. Mr. Ambassador, I'm very grateful to have you here today. I think my question for you about the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, is whether do you think what he has done is disqualifying for the position that he holds?
Well, I think this second example of a Signal chat group, and I have no doubt that there are more out there to be found, really shows a terrible lack of judgment. Communicating with the people in this group in particular who have absolutely no need to know about any upcoming U.S. military operation leads me to wonder what he's doing on the job on a minute-to-minute, hour-by-hour basis, that he's got time to knock out Signal messages to friends and family, which is what this group is. I mean, I think Hegseth has sadly proved himself to be a lightweight, and I don't think he's long for the job. I think there'll be a decent interval here so that the administration doesn't have to appear to be bowing to political pressure. But he's used up his goodwill with the administration. He's supposed to be defending Trump, not Trump defending him. This is wasted energy for the White House at this point.
I was going to say, I mean, you've been on the receiving end of course, Donald Trump deciding, one day that he wanted someone else in the job that you had held. And, a tweet went out at, it looks like just a little bit before noon, saying that he had asked for your resignation. You had given it to him. What about that experience informs how you think about what might happen here with Pete Hegseth? Because we have seen Donald Trump go before cameras and defend Hegseth repeatedly.
Yeah, I had actually handed in my resignation letter about 3 hours before his tweet went out. My mistake was not preemptively tweeting myself, but leaving that aside, Rex Tillerson was fired when he was in Egypt. Reince Priebus found he couldn't get a ride home from Andrews Air Force Base one day after coming back on Air Force One when he was fired as chief of staff. This is Donald Trump, a real loyal superior officer. So if I were Hegseth, I'd be thinking of what my next job would be. I'm not sure he will do that, but I don't see his tenure here lasting more than some months into the future. Someone suggested to me that you take the garbage out in August, and maybe that's when there are a lot of changes in the administration.
Interesting way to think about it. Big picture at the Pentagon. I mean, obviously there's the Signal chat piece of it. It's important. But we've also had a top longtime Trump loyalist in John Oliot, who you may know. I mean, he's been part of the national security community for many years, writing in public, putting his name on an op-ed that there is chaos at the Pentagon. Do you believe him, first of all? And what implications do you think that has for national security?
Well, I don't know Oliot, but I do know that it now looks like 5 people that Hegseth himself hired have all been fired or resigned. So leave aside the chaos that's spreading in the rest of the department. He can't even manage his own personal office. So I think the morale effects across the building and across the force here have to be pretty negative. I think the people in the Pentagon are pretty sophisticated. I think they can see Hegseth as a lightweight, and that has to fill them with concern given the threats to the United States around the world.
Briefly, sir, I know Iran is of great interest to you, and Steve Witkoff is very close to President Trump, has taken a lead on some of these things. There have been some reports about the Israelis wanting to strike Iran, the United States instead engaging in talks. Is that the right move?
No, I think negotiating with Iran about their nuclear program is a waste of oxygen. This is the opportune moment for Israel and the United States to solve a worldwide proliferation problem by taking out their nuclear program. Iran's in desperate shape. They need relief from American sanctions. They need relief from the pounding that Israel has administered their terrorist proxies and Iran itself. They'd like nothing better than drawn out negotiations. Witkoff seems to have convinced Trump that he can make a deal. Witkoff is another New York real estate developer. He knows nothing about nuclear weapons. He knows nothing about international proliferation or arms control. He knows nothing about Iran. Really, what could go wrong?
What could go wrong? Ambassador John Bolton, thank you so much for being on the show today, sir. I hope you'll come back soon.
Natasha, now Hegseth says that this leak investigation that supposedly is the reason behind these three people, these three senior aides being fired, is ongoing, and that all of these stories are about people trying to get at President Trump and his agenda. The White House continues to publicly say the president stands with Hegseth. What are your sources telling you?
There is a ton of confusion inside the Pentagon right now, to say the least, because these are Hegseth's guys. I mean, Dan Caldwell and Darren Selnick, these are two people that have been extremely close to him for over a decade. They worked with him at a veterans organization. They were brought in by Secretary Hegseth. And so the idea now that he has essentially thrown them under the bus after a leak investigation that apparently is not even concluded yet, according to what Secretary Hegseth said this morning, has really created some alarm among DoD officials, especially because there was already a lot of tension and suspicion between the civilian officials at the Pentagon and the military officials, particularly those that are in Hegseth's kind of inner circle, because if even the people who have been so loyal and so close to Pete Hegseth for so long are not safe here, then what kind of adoration and what kind of loyalty do you have to show to the Secretary of Defense to avoid being treated this way? One
of those officials who was fired, who worked with Hegseth for a long time, Dan Caldwell, went on Tucker Carlson's show on Monday and insisted he did not leak any classified information. He was not asked to take a polygraph test. He's not even been told what he's being investigated for. Take a listen.
Do you know what you've been accused of?
No, I don't. Sitting here right now, myself and Darren Selnick and Colin Carroll, the other two individuals that were escorted out of the Pentagon, initially placed on leave and then fired on Friday, we have not been told as of this recording, one, is there what we were being investigated for? Two, is there still an investigation? And three, was there even a real investigation? Because there's a lot of evidence that there is not a real investigation.
I know a lot of serious people who do not think there's a real investigation into these three. How is this claim from Hegseth and others and these attacks on these guys from Hegseth allies, how's that playing among others at the Pentagon?
Well, look, I think that based on our reporting, what we're able to say is that Pete Hegseth has been extremely paranoid about leaks dating back probably to the middle of March, when several stories began leaking in NBC and the New York Times and elsewhere about military planning, particularly when it came to the Panama Canal, the Middle East, and of course, the infamous meeting that Elon Musk had at the Pentagon. And so he has been on a rampage, according to our sources, trying to kind of find who might be disclosing this information. And what we are told is that because of that, he did order this leak probe, but he essentially has become so suspicious of everyone around him that his inner circle has dramatically shrunk over the last several weeks, to the point where it's now about 3 people, including his wife and his lawyer. And so while there is a sense here that he may be at this point trying to find a scapegoat, and also, of course, that he is now under investigation by the IG, the Inspector General of the Defense Department, for his use of signal, and therefore might be trying to get people out who might be able to testify to that, there is also a recognition here that he is feeling very much pushed against a wall at this point.